My friend, if you want to understand the quality of your life, look no further than the quality of your prayer life. Prayer is not just a habit, it is the heartbeat of your destiny. The way you pray, the depth with which you pray, and the sincerity of your prayers are written all over your life. Your victories, your peace, your strength, even your failures, are they not reflections of what you bring before God? I say this with urgency, prayer is not an option, it is survival. A person without prayer is like a tree without roots, standing in the storm with nothing to hold it steady. But the one who prays, who kneels before God, stands tall before every trial. If your life feels dry, empty, or broken, then ask yourself, what does your prayer life look like? Stay with me in this message, because what you are about to hear can transform the very core of your living. If you've been searching for breakthrough, if you've been asking for direction, if you've been waiting for peace, then you must understand this truth: your life will always reflect your prayer life. The hidden place of prayer shapes the visible place of living. When you spend time with God in prayer, your decisions become clearer, your strength becomes deeper, your character becomes stronger, and your faith becomes unshakable. But when prayer is absent, confusion reigns, temptations grow stronger, and fear takes over. Your life is a canvas, and prayer is the brush. What you paint in prayer is what the world will see in your life. So I challenge you, don't let your prayer life remain shallow. Don't let it be routine. Make it the well you draw from daily, because when prayer is alive in you, life itself begins to overflow with power, victory, and grace. Your life reflects your prayer life. Strengthen your prayer life, and you will strengthen your entire destiny. Prayer is the mirror of your inner life. What you pray about shapes what you live out. If you truly want to know the kind of life a man or woman will live, look at the kind of prayers they pray. Life is not built on outer circumstances alone. Life is built on what flows from the inside, and the inside is shaped in prayer. Every word you speak in prayer, every cry you pour out to God, every whisper of faith or doubt, every moment of thanksgiving or complaint, all of it is like a seed planted in the soil of your life. Those seeds grow whether you see them or not, and in time the harvest comes forth in your actions, your attitudes, your decisions, and your destiny. This is why prayer is not just a religious activity, but the very reflection of who you are becoming. When a person prays about small things with a small vision, their life often remains small, limited by their own lack of faith. But when a person prays bold prayers, believing in the greatness of God and daring to ask for impossible things, their life begins to stretch, expand, and rise beyond ordinary limits. Prayer enlarges you because prayer enlarges your faith. You will never rise higher than the level of your prayers. The reflection of your life cannot exceed the reflection of your prayer life. If your prayers are weak, your strength will be weak. If your prayers are shallow, your foundations will be shallow. But if your prayers are full of fire, full of passion, full of expectation, then your life will shine with power, purpose, and unshakable confidence. Think for a moment about how much time people spend trying to polish the outside of their lives. They spend hours building careers, chasing wealth, creating an image, impressing others, and pursuing comfort. But if all this effort is poured into the outer life without building the inner life through prayer, it will eventually collapse. Why? Because the outside is only a reflection of the inside. No matter how much you cover it, no matter how much you decorate it, the truth of your inner life will shine through. And prayer is the place where the inner life is formed. A person can fake strength in public, but if their prayer life is empty, their life will eventually reveal it. The cracks will show, the weaknesses will surface, and the storms will expose what was hidden. But on the other hand, look at the man or woman who spends time in the secret place of prayer. Their life reflects something different. They carry a peace that no one can understand, a confidence that does not come from money, a strength that does not come from their own power. Their life reflects a depth that only comes from spending time with God. You can tell when someone has been in prayer because their words carry weight, their presence carries light, and their life carries influence. They don't need to announce it because prayer always reflects itself outwardly. The private place of prayer always produces a public reflection of power. So when I say your life reflects your prayer life, I mean that you cannot separate the two. Show me a man of prayer, and I will show you a man of power. Show me a woman of prayer, and I will show you a woman of wisdom. Show me a family of prayer, and I will show you a family that stands strong even in storms. But show me a person without prayer, and I will show you a person who is always shaken, always wandering, always empty inside. The prayer life is the root, the lived life is the fruit. The deeper the root, the richer the fruit. Consider how a mirror works. A mirror does not invent an image. It only reflects what stands before it. Your life is that mirror, and prayer is the face before the glass. If your prayer life is filled with faith, your life will reflect faith. If your prayer life is filled with doubt, your life will reflect doubt. If your prayers are centered on selfish desires, your life will reflect selfishness. But if your prayers are filled with surrender, love, and humility, your life will reflect the beauty of God's character. The reflection is always tied to the source. This is why we must take prayer seriously. Too many treat prayer as a last resort instead of the first foundation. They pray only when trouble strikes, only when fear surrounds them, only when desperation leaves no other option. But if prayer is only an emergency call, then the reflection of their life will always be unstable. The strongest lives are built by those who pray consistently, faithfully, and passionately, not just in the crisis, but in the ordinary, daily moments of life. Every prayer offered today becomes the strength you will stand on tomorrow. Every prayer you pray in secret becomes a reflection of power in public. Your life will never rise above your prayers. If you want to live a life of courage, begin to pray with courage. If you want to live a life of clarity, begin to pray with sincerity. If you want to live a life that overcomes, begin to pray with persistence. What you put into your prayer life is exactly what will be reflected in your living. This is why some people live with extraordinary strength, though they have little in material wealth, while others collapse despite having every resource at their disposal. The difference is in the inner life, and the inner life is built on prayer. So I challenge you today, examine your prayers. Examine the way you pray, the time you give to prayer, the sincerity of your words. Is your prayer life shallow, rushed, and distracted, or is it deep, consistent, and filled with faith? Because the answer to that question will tell you what kind of reflection your life will carry. If you want your life to shine with hope, you must let your prayer life shine with hope. If you want your life to be filled with peace, then fill your prayers with thanksgiving. If you want your life to be a reflection of power, then let your prayers be filled with bold requests before God. Do not underestimate the power of this truth. Your prayer life is not hidden. It may be unseen by men, but it is always visible in the way you live. You cannot hide the reflection of your prayer life, because life itself is the mirror. If you want to change your life, change your prayers. If you want to lift your life, lift your prayers. If you want to live with greater vision, greater faith, greater strength, then let your prayers become greater, deeper, and stronger, because your life will always, always, always reflect your prayer life. The strength of your life depends on the strength of your prayer life. Every building stands tall not because of the beauty of its walls or the shine of its windows, but because of the depth of its foundation. In the same way, no matter how impressive your life may appear on the surface, your accomplishments, your possessions, your talents, if your prayer life is weak, your foundation is fragile, storms will come, trials will rise, temptations will press hard, and without the strength of prayer beneath you, life will topple under pressure. The true measure of strength is not in the public eye, but in the private discipline of prayer. Prayer is the unseen pillar that holds up every visible part of your life. Think about the human body. Muscles may look strong from the outside, but if the heart is weak, the body cannot endure. Prayer is that spiritual heart. It pumps strength into every area of your being, your thoughts, your choices, your relationships, your resilience. A life without prayer may appear outwardly vibrant, but inwardly it is gasping for breath. Many people walk through life wondering why they feel so drained, why they cannot find peace, why they collapse under even the smallest trial. The answer is not always in their circumstances. It is often in their lack of prayer. Prayer is the source of strength, and without it, you are trying to fight life's battles with empty hands. The strongest lives in history have always been the lives anchored in prayer. Strength does not come from titles, wealth, or popularity. Those things rise and fall like the tides. Strength comes from being rooted in God through prayer, because prayer draws on a source that never runs dry. You can lose money, you can lose friends, you can even lose opportunities, but if your prayer life is strong, you will still stand, and you will rise again. A strong prayer life creates a resilience that cannot be explained in human terms. It gives you a courage that outlasts fear, a peace that overrides confusion, and a hope that defies despair. Many people confuse strength with control. They think being in control of situations, people, or outcomes makes them strong, but real strength is not found in control, it is found in surrender. And prayer is that surrender. When you kneel before God in prayer, you are saying, I cannot carry this in my own power, but I believe you can. That act of surrender is what gives you true strength. Weakness in prayer is not weakness at all. It is the doorway to supernatural strength. The paradox is that the less time we spend in prayer, the more we try to carry life in our own strength, and the more exhausted we become. The more time we spend in prayer, the more we lay down our burdens, and the stronger we become to walk forward in peace. Look around at the world today. So many lives are restless, always chasing, always striving, always burning out. Anxiety has become a shadow that follows people into every corner of their life. But the one who is strong in prayer lives differently. They may face the same storms, but they are not shaken. They may walk through the same fire, but they are not consumed. Their strength does not come from the absence of problems, but from the presence of God in prayer. That strength is like steel beneath the surface, invisible to the eye, but unbreakable under pressure. Every great achievement in life demands strength, not just physical strength, but inner strength. To keep your integrity when tempted, you need strength. To hold your peace when wronged, you need strength. To persevere when the path is long and uncertain, you need strength. Where does that strength come from? It does not come from willpower alone, because willpower has limits. It does not come from motivational words alone, because those fade with time. It comes from prayer, because prayer taps into a power greater than yourself. Prayer is the power cord that connects your weakness to God's unlimited strength. The moment you disconnect from prayer, you begin to run on your own power, and sooner or later your power will run out. Ask yourself honestly, how strong is your prayer life? Do you treat prayer like a duty you rush through, or is it the lifeline of your soul? Because the strength you put into prayer is the strength that will show up in your life. If your prayer life is shallow, your strength will be shallow. But if your prayer life is deep, if it is consistent, if it is heartfelt, your strength will be steady, enduring and overflowing. It will carry you not only through ordinary days, but through the darkest nights. Sometimes people say, I don't have time to pray. But if you don't have time to pray, you don't have time to be strong. You may think you're saving time, but in reality, you are losing strength. The minutes you invest in prayer are not wasted. They are multiplied back to you in energy, clarity, and resilience. A person who prays may not escape hardship, but they will always face it with greater strength than the one who neglects prayer. Prayer strengthens not just the spirit, but the mind, aligning your thoughts with clarity and filling your emotions with peace. The storms of life do not discriminate. They come to the rich and the poor, the educated and the uneducated, the young and the old. But the difference in how people survive those storms is found in their foundation of prayer. A weak prayer life means your house is built on sand, easily shaken when the winds blow. A strong prayer life means your house is built on rock, unshaken no matter how fierce the storm. The strength of your life depends entirely on where you have built it, and prayer is the building place of strength. Let this truth sink deeply. The strength of your life depends on the strength of your prayer life. If you are weak in prayer, you will be weak in life. But if you are strong in prayer, you will be strong in every area of life. So choose today to strengthen your prayer life. Choose to build it with faith, with consistency, with passion. Choose to give God not just hurried words, but sincere conversation. Every prayer you pray is like a brick laid in the foundation of your life. Keep building, keep praying, and you will discover that nothing can shake the strength of a life built on prayer. A weak prayer life produces a weak faith, but a strong prayer life produces an unshakable life. Faith is not something that stands on its own, isolated from your daily habits. Faith is built, strengthened, and sustained by the prayers you offer. If you do not pray, your faith will shrink. If you pray without passion, your faith will remain fragile. But if you pray with sincerity, consistency, and expectation, your faith will grow into a fortress that cannot be torn down. Prayer and faith are inseparable. The strength of one determines the strength of the other, and together they shape the life you live. Faith is the fuel that drives you forward, but prayer is the fire that ignites that fuel. Without prayer, faith grows cold. Without prayer, faith becomes little more than a word or an idea. Many people say they believe, but their lives show no reflection of strength because their faith has no fire behind it. It is easy to speak about faith, to quote verses, or to declare big dreams, but without prayer those declarations are empty. Real faith is born, nourished, and tested in prayer. Faith becomes alive when prayer breathes life into it. Think about how a seed grows into a strong tree. The seed contains all the potential for life, but it cannot grow without water. In the same way, faith contains the potential for great strength, but it cannot grow without the water of prayer. If prayer is absent, the seed of faith dries up and dies. If prayer is shallow, the seed sprouts but withers in the heat of trials. But if prayer is deep, consistent, and steady, the seed of faith grows roots that dig deep into the soil, anchoring the tree against every storm. That tree does not fall easily, and its fruit becomes abundant. The life of faith works exactly the same way. Prayer is the water, prayer is the nourishment, prayer is the strength that transforms a seed of belief into a towering tree of unshakable confidence in God. A weak prayer life produces weak faith because it disconnects you from the very source of strength. When you neglect prayer, you are cutting off the channel through which faith is fed. Soon doubts begin to creep in. Fear grows louder. Temptations become harder to resist. Faith is not lost all at once. It weakens little by little as prayer is neglected. Without prayer, faith becomes brittle, unable to withstand the weight of life's burdens. People who pray only when they are desperate often find themselves unstable because they have not built a consistent foundation. They treat prayer as a bandage instead of the daily bread that sustains them. Weak prayer cannot hold up strong faith, and the result is always a fragile life. But a strong prayer life produces strong faith. The more you pray, the more you trust. The more you trust, the more you experience the power of God in your life. Every prayer answered builds another stone of confidence in your faith. Even prayers that are not answered the way you expected build faith because they teach you patience, surrender, and the truth that God's wisdom is greater than your own. With every moment in prayer, faith grows muscles. It becomes strong enough to lift the weight of hardship, resilient enough to endure disappointment, and bold enough to step into the unknown without fear. Strong faith does not come from wishing for it. It comes from praying for it, nurturing it, and exercising it daily. When faith is strong, life becomes unshakable. This does not mean that trials disappear or that pain never touches you. It means that when trials come, you do not collapse. When storms rage, you do not panic. When losses strike, you do not despair. You may bend under the weight, but you will not break. A person with strong faith can walk through fire and come out refined, not destroyed. They can stand in the face of giants and not retreat. They can endure seasons of silence without losing hope. This kind of strength is not human. It is the reflection of a life rooted in prayer. Prayer produces faith, and faith produces an unshakable life. Weak faith, on the other hand, makes life unstable. The one who does not pray consistently is tossed back and forth by every emotion, every circumstance, every piece of bad news. One day they are confident, the next they are fearful. One moment they are hopeful, the next they are defeated. They try to stand tall, but because their faith has no anchor, they sway with every wind. They are like a boat with no anchor drifting on the sea. Wherever the tide pulls, they go. But the one whose prayer life is strong has an anchor, a foundation, a strength that does not move with the tide. Consider the people who have left the strongest marks on the world. Their strength was not in their wealth or fame, but in their faith, and their faith was sustained by prayer. They built lives that could not be shaken because their trust was not in themselves, but in God, and that trust was deepened daily through prayer. When the storms came, they stood. When the battles raged, they endured. Their secret was not extraordinary ability, it was extraordinary dependence on prayer that made their faith unshakable. You must understand this connection clearly. If you want to strengthen your faith, strengthen your prayer life. Don't wait until trouble strikes. Don't wait until you feel weak. Start building now, brick by brick, prayer by prayer, until your faith becomes strong enough to withstand anything. Strong faith does not happen by accident. It is the deliberate result of a strong prayer life. Every time you kneel in prayer, you are strengthening your faith. Every time you lift your voice in prayer, you are adding another layer of strength to your foundation. Every prayer you pray is a deposit into the account of your faith, and when life's storms come, you will have more than enough strength to stand. A weak prayer life will always leave you weak. A strong prayer life will always make you strong. The choice is yours. Do you want a life that crumbles at the first sign of trouble, or a life that stands firm no matter what comes? If you want a strong life, you must build strong faith. If you want strong faith, you must build a strong prayer life. There is no shortcut, no alternative, no substitute. Prayer and faith are bound together. One feeds the other, and together they produce the strength to live a life that cannot be shaken. So strengthen your prayers. Let them grow deeper, longer, more passionate, more consistent. Don't settle for quick words or routine phrases. Pour out your heart, bring your burdens, lift your dreams, and let your faith expand as you pray. Your life depends on it. For a weak prayer life produces a weak faith, but a strong prayer life produces an unshakable life. Prayer aligns you with divine purpose and keeps your path clear. Life without direction is like a ship drifting without a compass, carried wherever the winds blow. So many people live this way, reacting to whatever comes, chasing after opportunities without clarity, starting journeys they were never meant to walk. Confusion, frustration, and emptiness follow them because they are not aligned with the purpose for which they were created. But when you live a life of prayer, something begins to shift. Prayer does not just change situations around you, prayer changes you. It aligns your heart, your mind, your steps with the path that was designed for you long before you even knew it existed. The beauty of prayer is that it connects you with a wisdom greater than your own. Human understanding is limited. We see only a small piece of the puzzle, but prayer connects us with the one who sees the entire picture. When you pray, you are asking for guidance that surpasses your own reasoning. You are saying, not my will, but your will. Not my path, but your path. And in that surrender, clarity begins to rise. The fog lifts, the confusion begins to fade, and the choices before you become clearer. You begin to sense not only what you want, but what is right. Prayer clears away the noise of distraction and tunes your heart to the frequency of purpose. Many people chase success without ever seeking direction. They climb ladders only to discover that the ladder was leaning against the wrong wall. They spend years of energy pursuing dreams that were never theirs to begin with. But prayer keeps you from wasting your life on the wrong pursuits. Prayer aligns your desires with God's desires, your plans with His plans, your ambitions with His vision. And when you are aligned with divine purpose, every step you take carries weight. You no longer wander aimlessly, you walk with intention. Even small decisions begin to matter because they are part of a greater path. Think about how an archer aims at a target. If the arrow is off by even a small angle, it will miss the mark entirely once it travels far enough. Life works the same way. A small misalignment at the start can lead to a completely different outcome in the end. Prayer is what corrects that aim. It adjusts your direction before you wander too far. Every time you come into prayer, you are realigning your arrow with the target of divine purpose. You are reminding yourself of who you are, why you are here, and where you are going. Without prayer, you drift. With prayer, you walk a straight path. This is why people who pray consistently often carry a deep sense of peace, even when others around them are restless. Their peace does not come from knowing every detail of the journey, but from knowing they are walking in the right direction. Prayer does not guarantee an easy road, but it guarantees a guided road. You may face obstacles, but you will not be lost. You may stumble, but you will not be wandering. Prayer becomes the compass that keeps you steady on the course of your purpose. Have you ever noticed how quickly life becomes cluttered when prayer is absent? Worries pile up, choices overwhelm you, and every voice around you seems louder than the voice within. It is in prayer that clarity returns. Prayer clears the clutter from your heart and allows you to focus on what truly matters. Without prayer, you will always be pulled in 100 directions, but with prayer, your steps are guided by a higher wisdom. Prayer helps you discern between what looks good and what is truly right. It helps you recognize doors that are distractions and doors that are destiny. There are countless stories of people who tried to build their lives on talent, intelligence, or ambition alone, only to find themselves empty. They reached heights but felt no fulfillment. They achieved goals but discovered no peace. Why? Because purpose cannot be manufactured by human effort. It must be revealed, and prayer is the place of revelation. In prayer, you begin to discover not only what you can do, but what you were made to do. And when you live in that discovery, your life takes on a power and clarity that nothing else can produce. Prayer also protects you from detours that can steal years of your life. How many times have people walked into relationships, jobs, or decisions that looked promising on the surface but ended in disappointment? Without prayer, it is easy to mistake counterfeit opportunities for genuine doors of destiny. But prayer sharpens your discernment. It aligns your spirit so that when something is not right, you sense it deep within. You may not even know why, but prayer equips you to recognize when to walk away and when to step forward. This is how prayer keeps your path clear. It guards you from deception and distraction. Alignment with divine purpose does not mean you will never face challenges. On the contrary, you may face even greater opposition because purpose often attracts resistance. But here is the difference. When you are aligned with purpose through prayer, you can face opposition with courage. You know that the struggle is not meaningless, that every challenge is shaping you for the fulfillment of a greater calling. Instead of being shaken by obstacles, you are strengthened by them. Instead of questioning your path, you are anchored in it. Prayer gives you the assurance that you are exactly where you are meant to be, even when the road is difficult. It is easy to live a life out of alignment. It is easy to chase after what everyone else is chasing, to follow the crowd, to move wherever the pressure pushes you. But that kind of life will never lead to fulfillment. You will always feel like something is missing, like you are running but not arriving. The only way to escape that cycle is to live in alignment with purpose, and the only way to live in alignment is through prayer. Prayer is not an accessory to life. It is the steering wheel. It is not an occasional ritual. It is the daily alignment of your heart to the path that was designed for you. If you want your path to be clear, you must pray. If you want your steps to be sure, you must pray. If you want your life to be filled with meaning, you must pray. Because prayer does more than comfort you in hard times. It positions you in the right place, at the right time, for the right purpose. Every time you enter into prayer, you are not just speaking words. You are aligning your life with destiny. You are saying yes to purpose, yes to clarity, yes to walking the path that was written for you long before you took your first breath. So never underestimate what prayer is doing in your life. It may not always change your circumstances immediately, but it is always changing your direction. It is clearing the fog, straightening the path, and aligning you with the purpose for which you were created. And when you live in that alignment, your life will not be wasted. You will walk with clarity, with strength, with confidence, knowing that you are exactly where you are meant to be. Prayer aligns you with divine purpose, and in that alignment, your path will always be clear. The life you live in public is the fruit of the prayers you make in private. What people see on the outside is only a reflection of what has been cultivated in the unseen place. Too many people spend their energy trying to impress others, trying to build an image, trying to look strong, confident, or successful before the world. Yet they neglect the one place that truly shapes their destiny, the private room of prayer. Public strength without private prayer is like a tree with leaves but no roots. It may look beautiful for a season, but when the storms come, it will wither and fall. Real stability, real power, and real influence flow from what is done when no one is watching. Every person's life has two dimensions, the visible and the invisible. The visible is what others can observe, your words, your actions, your accomplishments. The invisible is what only you and God know, your thoughts, your desires, your prayers. It is in that invisible realm where the real battle of life is won or lost. If you are empty in private, no amount of public display can cover it for long. The cracks will show, the weakness will leak out, and eventually the truth will be revealed. But if you are strong in private, if you cultivate a deep and consistent life of prayer, your public life will overflow with strength, wisdom, and resilience. Prayer in private always bears fruit in public. Consider how a farmer works. The harvest that everyone sees in the field is not the result of what he does in front of others, but the result of the quiet, hidden work he did months before, preparing the soil, planting the seed, watering the ground. The real work happened out of sight. In the same way, your public life is a harvest of your private prayers. If you have not planted in prayer, do not expect a harvest of power in public. If you have not watered your faith in private, do not expect to walk with boldness before others. Prayer is the hidden labor that produces visible fruit. It is tempting to focus only on the external because the external brings recognition. People applaud success, they admire confidence, they respect accomplishments, but God is not fooled by the surface. He looks deeper. He measures the heart, the faith, the integrity that no one else can see. And the amazing thing is this: when you take care of the private place of prayer, God himself will take care of your public life. He will cause doors to open, favor to follow, and light to shine, not because you manipulated it, but because your hidden life was aligned with him. The opposite is also true. When the private place is neglected, the public life begins to crumble. You may be able to maintain an appearance for a while, but it will not last. The stress of life, the weight of responsibility, the pressure of trials will reveal the truth. This is why so many people who seem strong suddenly fall apart. The problem was not in what people saw, but in what they could not see. Their prayer life was empty, and therefore the fruit of their life could not endure. But when your private life is full of prayer, you carry something into the public space that cannot be faked. You carry an authority that does not come from titles, a peace that does not come from circumstances, a joy that does not come from possessions. People may not know why, but they will sense that there is something different about you. They will see the fruit without knowing the root. That fruit is the overflow of private prayer. Think about the strength of a tree. No one applauds the roots, no one sees the roots, yet the roots are the reason the tree can stand tall. In the same way, no one may applaud your prayers, no one may see your prayers, but your prayers are the reason your life can stand strong. When you go into your private room, when you pour out your heart, when you cry, when you surrender, when you seek wisdom, those moments may seem hidden, but they are shaping your public future. Every strong word you speak later, every wise decision you make, every act of kindness or courage in the open is the fruit of the unseen root of prayer. This is why it is dangerous to neglect private prayer while craving public recognition. A life built this way is fragile, easily shaken, easily broken. But when the hidden place is strong, the public life becomes unshakable. The applause of people may come and go. Circumstances may rise and fall, but the fruit of your life will remain because it was nourished in the soil of prayer. Prayer gives you depth. It anchors you in a way that nothing else can. Prayer in private also protects you in public. When you pray in secret, you develop humility because you realize you are dependent on God, not on yourself. That humility safeguards you from pride when others praise you. When you pray in secret, you confess your weaknesses, and in that confession you receive strength. That honesty protects you from hypocrisy when the world is watching. When you pray in secret, you align your motives with God's will, and that alignment protects you from corruption when opportunity and power are placed in your hands. Private prayer is not just preparation for public life, it is protection in public life. Imagine standing before the world without having first knelt in prayer. Imagine facing the pressures of responsibility, the temptations of success, the pain of failure without the strength of a hidden prayer life. it would be unbearable. But imagine the opposite standing before the world after hours spent in prayer, after nights of pouring your heart before God, after mornings of seeking His guidance. Suddenly the weight becomes lighter, the pressure becomes manageable, and the temptations lose their grip. Not because you are strong in yourself, but because your private prayer has given you strength beyond yourself. The life you live in public will always reveal the truth of your private prayers. If your prayers are shallow, your public life will be shallow. If your prayers are inconsistent, your life will be unstable. But if your prayers are deep, sincere, and constant, your life will reflect that depth. People will see it in your words, in your choices, in your endurance. They may not know the hours you spent in secret, but they will taste the fruit of it every time they encounter you. So if you want your life to shine in public, invest in your prayers in private. Do not neglect the hidden place, for that is where strength, wisdom, and purpose are born. Let your prayer life be the root, and your public life will be the fruit. Remember, applause fades, success shifts, and circumstances change, but what is built in prayer remains forever. The hidden life of prayer is the foundation of the visible life of power. The world may never see your prayers, but it will always see the life that your prayers produce. Consistency in prayer transforms ordinary living into extraordinary destiny. Life is not shaped by a single great moment, nor by rare flashes of brilliance. Life is shaped by daily habits, repeated choices, and the disciplines that form your character over time. Among all the disciplines a person can cultivate, prayer is the most powerful. But the true power of prayer is not found in the occasional cry of desperation, nor in the hurried words spoken when convenient. The true power of prayer is found in consistency, returning day after day in joy and in sorrow, in strength and in weakness, in faith and in doubt, to the one who hears and answers. That steady rhythm of prayer turns an ordinary life into one marked by extraordinary purpose, direction, and destiny. Many people underestimate consistency. They want results without commitment, breakthroughs without persistence, transformation without process. But nothing great is ever built overnight. A seed does not become a tree in a day. A muscle does not grow strong in one workout. A life does not reach its destiny by a single decision. Strength, growth, and transformation come through consistency, and prayer is no different. A life of prayer is not built by occasional words, but by faithful devotion. Every time you pray, you are adding a stone to the foundation of your destiny. Every prayer, no matter how small it feels, is part of a greater structure being built within you. Consistency in prayer changes you in ways you may not even notice at first. On the surface, you may feel like nothing is happening. Days go by, and you wonder if your prayers are being heard. But beneath the surface, roots are growing, faith is deepening, character is being shaped, your heart is being softened, your vision is being sharpened. Just like water dripping on a rock slowly carves its mark, consistent prayer carves strength and clarity into your soul. Over time, you look back and realize you are not the same person you once were. The consistency of your prayers has transformed you from the inside out. When prayer is inconsistent, life becomes unstable. You may rise for a moment, but you fall again. You may feel strong one day and weak the next. Inconsistency keeps you trapped in cycles of frustration. But when prayer becomes consistent, stability enters your life. You no longer depend on emotions to drive you, because prayer has become your anchor. You no longer rise and fall with circumstances, because prayer has given you a steady rhythm. Consistency in prayer weaves strength into your character until it becomes unshakable. It is not the length of your prayers that matters most, it is the consistency. 5 minutes of prayer every day is more powerful than an hour once a month. A few sincere words spoken consistently will produce more transformation than eloquent speeches offered occasionally. Consistency builds momentum, and momentum carries you forward even when you feel weary. The habit itself becomes your strength, guiding you back to prayer when distractions try to pull you away. Ordinary lives become extraordinary not because the people in them are extraordinary, but because their habits are extraordinary. Consistency in prayer is the difference between living with confusion and living with clarity, between stumbling aimlessly and walking with purpose, between weakness and strength. Ordinary people who pray consistently rise to live extraordinary destinies because they are fueled by a source greater than themselves. They tap into wisdom, strength, and power that goes beyond human limitation. Consistency in prayer also prepares you for seasons of challenge. If you only pray when trouble comes, you will not have the strength to endure. But if you have prayed consistently before the storm, you will stand firm when the winds blow. Prayer builds spiritual muscles, and consistency keeps them strong. When challenges arise, your first instinct will not be panic but prayer. Your reflex will not be fear but faith. This is the power of consistency. It trains your spirit to respond with strength automatically because you have built that pattern over time. Destiny is not reached by luck or accident. It is the result of direction, discipline, and divine guidance. Prayer is the key that unlocks that guidance, but consistency in prayer is what keeps you aligned with it. One prayer may open a door, but consistent prayer keeps you walking down the right path. One moment of prayer may give you strength, but consistent prayer transforms your entire character. One breakthrough in prayer may change your situation, but consistent prayer will change your life. Look at anyone who has left a lasting impact on the world, and you will find consistency in the unseen disciplines. The extraordinary outcomes of their lives were built on ordinary habits repeated faithfully. Prayer is the greatest of these habits. When you pray consistently, you invite the extraordinary into the ordinary. You invite divine wisdom into daily decisions, divine strength into daily struggles, divine peace into daily chaos. Over time, these daily encounters accumulate into a destiny that shines far beyond what you could have imagined. Consistency in prayer also keeps your relationship with God alive, and vibrant relationships cannot grow without time, attention, and communication. Imagine a friendship where you only spoke once every few months. That relationship would remain shallow, but when you talk every day, share your heart every day, walk together every day, the bond becomes unbreakable. Prayer is the daily communication that deepens your relationship with God. Consistency makes the relationship real, strong, and intimate, and from that relationship flows the clarity and strength to live out your destiny. You may not always feel like praying. There will be days when you are tired, discouraged, distracted, but consistency is not about feelings, it is about commitment. The power of consistent prayer is that it carries you even when your emotions do not. It trains your spirit to rise above your moods, and often it is in those moments when you feel least like praying that the most powerful breakthroughs come, because you are proving that your commitment is greater than your feelings. Ordinary life is limited by human ability, but extraordinary destiny is unlocked by divine partnership. Consistent prayer is what sustains that partnership. When you make prayer a lifestyle, not an occasional activity, you begin to see doors open that you could never open yourself. You begin to walk in strength you never thought you had. You begin to experience peace that cannot be explained. This is not coincidence. It is the result of living consistently in alignment with God through prayer. So never despise the small moments of prayer. Never think that because your prayers feel ordinary, they are powerless. Every consistent prayer is building something eternal. Every moment of faith, however small, is part of a greater work. Over time, those small, ordinary prayers transform into an extraordinary destiny. Consistency is the secret. Consistency is the strength. Consistency is the bridge that carries you from ordinary to extraordinary. If you want your life to rise beyond the ordinary, commit yourself to consistent prayer. Make it the rhythm of your days, the anchor of your nights, the breath of your soul. It may not always feel dramatic, but it will always be powerful. Over time, you will see how ordinary living becomes extraordinary destiny, because consistency in prayer never leaves a life unchanged.